There needs to be a more assertive method of engaging with the youth and helping them to develop certain ways to express their own concerns so that the government and other stakeholders can work out strategies to assist these youths and to prevent them from getting involved with crime, even though some government officials may say that Indigenous Australians are receiving the same benefits as other Australians. However, even if this is true, maybe most of them may not be ready for the equal opportunities that others have. For example, if a kid who's never been to school gets sent into university, obviously that kid is likely to fall behind regardless of how equally he's being treated in comparison to other students. The point is, there may be certain aspects of mainstream society that many Indigenous youth will find hard to accept or adapt to. Therefore, they may require special assistance, just like if an elderly woman gets knocked over by a young man riding a bicycle, then it is the young man's responsibility to make sure the old lady gets home safely. Therefore, if the government did something wrong in the past, it is their responsibility to make up for it and try to repair the damages that have been done, which seems to be what they are currently trying to do, but haven't made up for all the damages. Perhaps most Indigenous Australians are not ready to benefit to modern day society. For a race that has been suppressed for so many years, it may be difficult for the young generation to receive sufficient support from their family in terms of resources and social skills, since their elders have grown up in a society where they were continuously abused, condemned, and captivated from their land and culture. So therefore, expecting them to keep up with a competitive, economically developed mainstream society might be a demand that is a bit unrealistic for a large number of Indigenous Australians living within the 21st century. It is important to remember that they are different from ethnics who were born outside Australia. Even though Australia is a multicultural country and the government cannot provide special assistance for all non-white Australians. But as mentioned before, Indigenous Australians were born on this land. Therefore, many of them do not feel the need to accept and comply with another set of rules and social norms that has been passed on by a different culture. They might feel that non-Indigenous ethnic groups are the ones who should truly respect the Indigenous Australian belief system. In terms of speaking about the push and pull factor, throughout Australian history, they were neither pushed nor pulled. Figuratively speaking, they were chained to the bottom of a lake as they watched the water level increase while their voices were being drowned out by the uprising flood. This is probably how many Aboriginal youth and elders still feel when they are living in a capitalist society dominated by a large multi-ethnic population that has reduced their reputation to a small percentage. As highlighted so far, many of the causes for Aboriginal youth in crime has been a lack of access and equity. When speaking from a structuralist perspective, inequality would be seen as a huge cause for crime and social struggles. But this does not mean that all Aboriginal youth are lacking access to support services and other benefits. Some may not want nor require education and welfare support. They may be, as some may put it, taking things for granted. However, it is important not to stereotype these youths. Everyone does things for different reasons. Some may be breaching the law for no reasons of desperation, while some may have either experienced or are currently experiencing poverty and human rights violations where they feel the need to rebel in the form of violence and abuse, etc. They may not all be showing signs of retaliation. Some of them may be turning to illegal drugs in order to escape from the harsh reality of their living status in society. This can also be seen as a way of resistance against the living expectations within modern-day Australia, even though it is not a way to fight against the odds, but it probably shows that some of these youths would rather drag themselves away from reality than live among the wide community and cooperate with the lively expectations of capitalist Australian society. When exploring the issue of Aboriginal youth and violence, there can be a large number of presenting issues and causes. However, like other youth, they have their own ways of independent thinking, which needs to be acknowledged by adults, and they need to be consulted and personally assisted more rather than just tormented and forced into compliance. It is a difficult task to convince young people to get educated and trained properly to benefit to society. However, it is even more difficult when working with youth who have experienced or have heard stories about adult and political corruption which has oppressed their elders for many years. These often create an untrustworthy relationship between the indigenous Australians and the government system they are living under. Therefore, rather than just telling Aboriginal youth to stay away from crime, they need to be told why it is important for them to stay away from criminal activity. Communication can be carried out in many different forms. Sometimes, people need to explore the reasons and background context behind Aboriginal youth in crime, rather than just looking at the impact and outcomes of the situation. For a welfare worker to work with Aboriginal kids who are involved with criminal activity, it is important to build up a trusting and respectful relationship with the target group and have consideration for the appropriate method of communication throughout the consultation process. It is important to work holistically with client groups rather than developing a black and white view about their behavior and status in society. When brainstorming ways to prevent young Aboriginals from involving themselves in crime, there must be an analysis of history and culture of this target group and the background they come from, whether it be economic or just cultural. This has been mentioned before at the beginning. Secondary research may not be enough because sometimes the media can be rather biased and do not portray a balanced view of the wide community. Therefore, primary research through consultation would also be a useful strategy to gain a balanced view from and about the target group. It will be important to consult the target group and other community members who are non-Indigenous in order to avoid having a biased understanding of Aboriginal youth and their community. When talking about how to identify causes and prevent Aboriginal youth from committing crimes, well, there could be a whole wide range of answers to explain why Aboriginal youth are committing crimes and how to prevent them from committing crimes. However, for a welfare worker to be able to understand a situation holistically, it is important to develop active listening skills in order to understand the situation from both sides rather than having a biased view, as I have mentioned before. I think that is it for now. Okay, I'll see you later.